Hey, what's up YouTube? I'm Jordan from Elements Concrete, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make a concrete coffee table. So first what we're going to do is we're going to set up our sheet of melamine on some sawhorses. You're going to want to get a friend probably to help you with this. And then we're going to lay out, we're going to kind of clean it off, make sure there's no debris on it. And then we're going to lay out our dimensions. The melamine form will be used to shape the concrete table. We took a 3/4 inch sheet of melamine and cut it according to our desired dimensions, which in this case will result in a 40-inch long tabletop and a height and width of 18 inches. In total, we had about 11 pieces of melamine to cut to make a complete form. All right, so now that we've got our forms cut and all laid out to the dimensions, we're going to do an 18 by 40 inch long table. For these forms, we cut these side forms at 18 inches and 3/4 because we want to account for the thickness of this bottom piece here. We also added 3/4 to the side pieces too. So we're going to pre-drill some holes. We're going to drill this together with screws. So next, now that we've got our holes pre-drilled, we're going to put our forms together like so. Just have to get it started. You're going to want to hang it off the edge of the table if you can, a little bit, once you get it set. We take a framing square, make sure our sides are square, and obviously they're not, so you want to hold it there. And I'm actually going to have Andrew help me here. You just want to hold that square. We pop that on there like so. We're looking for it to be flush on the back. That looks good. That looks good, Andrew. Yep. And then screw it in. You want to make sure that this transition is pretty smooth, because everything's going to show up in your final product. So the next thing we have to do is to waterproof all our inside corners right along here between the melamine, and this will also help with a nice rounded over edge. A lot of guys, including myself sometimes, will use silicone to do that with, but there's some downsides to it. You have to wait for it to dry to, cast, and it's a little messy, and there's a couple extra steps. So we're not going to use silicone today. We are going to use modeling clay, and this is what we normally do here. It's just like a Chavant modeling clay, sulfur-free, which is important, and it's an oil-based. So you can get this online, or you can get it at any craft store. It's the easier way to do it. So what you can do, we can take our clay. I'll show you this in a minute. But you can take our clay. You don't need anything fancy to do it, and you kind of just roll it out. Roll it out like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to take a clay tool, and you take it, you come in here, and you kind of just push it in like so. And then you take this, and you run it through, you put a bit of pressure on it, and there you go. And you just continue that around the entire thing. I like to take a knife blade and kind of clean up the edge, the excess clay. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to kind of wipe this out a little bit just to kind of clean it up. You don't want any dust or debris in there, we're actually going to use the vacuum to vacuum up the leftovers in here. All right, so we're gonna start mixing up our concrete now. We've got our Buddy Rhodes pre-blended ECC mix. I like to use the pre-blended mix because it doesn't take up a lot of room in the shop and it's easy to source for me. We'll be adding some color to it. The concrete is generally white when it comes out of the bag, so we're gonna add this husky gray. For this table, we used 3 50-pound bags of Buddy Rhodes ECC concrete. Each bag requires about 8.9 pounds of water to mix. To begin making your concrete face coat mix, you should start by using 1 full bag of concrete and adding the correct weight of your desired coloring, water reducer, and water. You can mix this in a 5-gallon bucket, but we're gonna mix it in the bigger mixing bucket today, just because I only have 1 5-gallon bucket. So here we've got some water reducer. What this does is it makes it so we don't have to use as much water. More water in your mix equals a weaker mix. Long story short, maybe we'll do a video on the technicalities of water reducer, or plasticizer as it's also referred to. I like to add my plasticizer into the water beforehand, and we'll throw our color in. Our nice husky gray, and we're gonna throw some water in. We're gonna hold back a little bit of water. So we've got it mixed up. We're gonna let this sit for a second, and we're gonna do what's called a false set. What's happening is your sand is absorbing some of the water because it's dry in the mix. So we're gonna let that sit for a few minutes, and then we're gonna come back, we're gonna see where it's at. We'll add a little more water that we have left in the bucket, and then go from there.
A few moments later.
So the consistency you're looking for is gonna be like soft serve ice cream. So you're gonna be able to do this with it. That's plenty wet for a face coat. Just like that. Melted soft serve ice cream. So we're gonna take this bucket over to our table. So what we're gonna do is called SCC, which is self-consolidating concrete. Some guys, a lot of them in the GFRC world, will use what's called a hopper gun. So they'll use a hopper gun, which we occasionally use, but not very often anymore. You don't have to do it with one of these. In this case, we're going to use what's called a magic trowel, which is basically just a thick squeegee. And this is pretty easy, consistent way to apply the face coat. We're gonna do our thin face coat, about maybe 1/8 of an inch thick, and then we'll let that set till we can just touch it and we don't leave a fingerprint. And then we will put our sides on and let it sit for a minute, and then we'll mix up our backer coat and we will pour it. Squeegee up, just like this. We're gonna take a chip brush, and gonna brush our sides up here. And then we're just gonna let this sit for a minute. Generally, it's gonna be like 10 to 15. It really depends on the temperature of your shop, where you're doing it, but that's going to affect how long it takes it to set up. So you don't want to wait too long or you'll lose it, and then what'll happen is it'll delaminate from the backer later on, and that's not good. So we're going to wash this. All right, so now we're moving on to our backer coat. What's gonna go in the backer coat, the only real difference is the fact that there's fiber going in it. And this is glass fiber, not to be confused with fiberglass. I know that sounds ridiculous, but this glass fiber is treated making it alkaline resistant, meaning it won't break down in the concrete. If you just used fiberglass, eventually it's going to just deteriorate and it won't be in there anymore. We're gonna put about 1.5 pounds in per bag. Put this into here. Put our water in. We're gonna put all the water in this time. And so then we're gonna add our fiber. You don't want to dump it all in there at once because it'll tend to clump. So you want to kind of feed it as we go.
Meanwhile.
So then, we'll take this. Thank you. We've already pre-put the screws in there. We're just gonna pour this in. Not a lot, like, you know, just, ready? Yep. And we're gonna kinda put it down for a sec, and then I'm gonna just spread this around like so. It's definitely not like normal concrete. I want to kind of pack it into the edges there, make sure it gets up under the legs. Dump the rest. One more. All right. We'll kind of just clean that up a little bit. Spread it out a hair. There might even be a little much in there, but we can take some of that out. And we're just going to kind of roughly smooth it out. The whole idea between self-consolidating concrete, or SCC for short, is that it kind of just lays itself out. So we'll come back to this. We're going to let this sit for a few minutes. So we'll let it set up. And then we'll pour the legs. In the meantime, I'm going to kind of mist these a little bit just to keep them from, and actually I should have that bottle with the polymer in it. We're not going to do that, so I'm just going to spray with water. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So now we wait. In the meantime, you probably want to clean your mixer, anything else that's covered in concrete. Keep everything clean. You're gonna want to clean your edges up. That way you don't have to grind it the next day. Another artisan once told me that if you have to grind it the next day, you screwed up your forming and your casting. So I try not to do a lot of grinding the next day. All right, so we've finished casting our piece here, and what we're gonna do is everything looks good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover it. You want to cover it with a plastic sheet to keep in the moisture overnight while it cures. So I'm just gonna cover this up. And then what we're gonna do is, where we are, it's a little cool in the shop, so we're gonna take a blanket. You can use any blanket. It doesn't have to be a heated blanket. In fact, mine's not plugged in, so it's just a blanket. And then we're just gonna kind of cover it. It's all tangled up. Holy crap. It's like I never made a bed before. All right, so we're gonna call it a day. We're gonna clean up some stuff, and we'll be back in the morning and we'll demold. All right, so we're on day 2 of our coffee table build, and this is nice and warm from curing overnight. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna strip it out of this mold in a couple minutes and see what we got. Every day is like Christmas with this stuff, so. So once you've got all the forms off, what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these diamond pads and we're going to work our way around all the edges, and we're going to smooth out all these edges. They're sharp. Don't want to cut yourself. One more thing, before you go to sand your edges, you're going to want to kind of scrape off this clay from yesterday. You don't want to leave it on there too long. Just scrape the bulk of it off. We're going to clean the whole thing after we take it out of the form anyway, so. So next, you're going to want to probably grab a friend to help you flip this over, because it is 200 pounds or 150 pounds, I guess. And you probably want to throw some of your former forms down just to roll it on, dude, so you don't destroy it. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna probably want to hop up on the table. And we're just gonna kind of just roll it over gently. Nope. Hope that didn't damage anything. And then we'll just flip her up. Stay ready? Yep. There we go. So we've taken our piece out of the mold, and if you look, there's some defects here and there, but that's kind of to be expected with concrete. But we're going to take care of all those in a little bit with some grout. So before we fill any of our voids, we're going to kind of wash this down with a Scotch-Brite pad and some Dawn. I like to clean off the clay and any other residue that might be on from the mold. You want to make sure when you're cleaning your pieces you don't leave anything sitting on the surface of it, like a sponge or a bucket, because what it'll do is it'll leave a ring or a mark where it is from extra moisture soaking into it. We've got some little defects here. We're going to take care of those shortly. And we're ready to fill our first set of voids. So for this, we're just going to take a little bit of Buddy Rhodes bone paste, make up a slurry. We've colored it to match this, and we're just going to fill some of these defects. In my opinion, the beauty of concrete is that it doesn't have to be perfect, because concrete's not a perfect material. Now that we've got our bug holes and little defects filled, we're going to wait, and then we're going to come back and we're going to polish this later. So we're back. It's been a couple days. We've let this sit. We filled the cracks. Not cracks, but there were some defects in it that we filled with some grout. We're going to wet polish this today. We're going to start with a 100 grit diamond pad, and then we're going to go to a 200 grit diamond pad, and then we're going to stop. And we're just going to clean it up. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed this build. I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. And if you want, tag me on Instagram, Elements Concrete. And if you guys want to see other projects, or you have ideas for other projects and you want to know how to make them, let me know in the comments. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like, and we'll look forward to the next video we do.